Hello, and welcome back to another Lower Decks reaction episode, also known as the series that killed my microphone cord. So, maybe I should actually be a bit closer to the camera. But yeah, if audio quality is a little lower than normal, that's why, because last episode, filming with the Yeti actually broke the microphone cord. Like, hopefully I can get a 10-foot microphone cord, for 2-day shipping, but if Monday's video is delayed, that is why. But yes, episode 2, Kayshon, his eyes open, I think it's that. We're gonna meet the security chief. I haven't seen it yet, because as promised, I do want to talk briefly on strange energies and go over some of the things that were missed on an initial viewing. It's really nerve-wracking not being able to see the audio quality as I record. I'm gonna start with, what's their name actually? Antithesis, every week for the past several series has done a canon references for every episode, like a day or two after it goes out. They're amazing. I'll link it in the description. But I want to highlight, they pointed out at the beginning of the episode, Mariner's, like, I know we're not supposed to have personal conflicts in Starfleet. That's most likely, as they point out, a reference to Gene Roddenberry's famous/infamous, if you write a rule, that humanity and Starfleet personnel isn't supposed to have interpersonal conflicts to show how much they've grown. It was a huge part of what made Star Trek, emphasis on was, and it's kind of fun almost referencing that intentionally in the beginning. Another thing he caught is on Boimler's bunk bed was a sack of the stolen T-88 tricorder things from Season 1. That's a nice touch. And yeah, not much more in the terms of canon references. Well worth a read, that post. They're always amazing, but that's why I wanted to bring to light especially. Actually, another fun little nod that the nerd chaplain caught going through the discussions for last week's episode is that the Nightingale Woman, the book Stevens Is It Reached a Ransom, is actually a poem Gary Mitchell quotes, written by Gene Roddenberry. It's not a real poem, but that was a fun nod. But yeah, that's really it for episode 1. On the Reddit, just a lot of the stuff I talked about and we saw earlier. So I'm looking forward to episode 2, meeting the Temerian I mentioned before. Interested to see how it turns. I've got some concerns about constant Temerian, but I'm excited to see how it goes. By which I, of course, mean wait for the next 0 to 60 minutes for the episode to release, which I realize is actually a brilliant release strategy, because it spreads out the strain on the servers, but we're not here to talk about that. I will see you after the episode. Hopefully that audio was all good enough. Wow. This is going to be a long one. Before delving into my notes and everything, let's start with the big one. Boimler back on the Cerritos. I don't think it's how any of us expected it to be, except Rutherford, apparently. I'm literally moments coming off the episode. I'm not 100% sure how I feel about that. If you saw my trailer reaction video, we almost certainly knew he was coming back to the Cerritos as an ensign. We weren't sure how long it would be, but I know the big thing after Season 1 was they said right away, we're not going back. Boimler is being on the Titan. And this almost does feel like a bit of a cop-out. Like, I'll give him some time to maybe see if we take the Titan storyline any further. I hope we don't abandon it. Especially after such a long wait, it feels not a waste, but almost like really underwhelming. Like, it brings the finale of the last one down a bit to know you get like half an episode with him and like a clip from the last time. I think there's a lot they could do with that clone of him on the Titan. And I just hope they do. I don't know. I just really don't know how I feel about the way they brought Boimler back. I'm sure there'll be a lot of interesting stuff on the Reddit. But yeah, it really did kind of feel like a cop-out. And I get Jonathan Frakes is probably busy. He probably couldn't really commit a whole lot to Lower Decks. But I'd be real disappointed if that was it. I think what really gets me is there's no reason that he has to actually be an ensign going back to the Cerritos. Like, there's no room for a lieutenant anywhere in all of Starfleet. And even if there's not, they couldn't just keep him there for like the few months until there is an opening, just like on a different ship. Because that's what makes it feel like a big cop-out is, sure, there's a reason he can't be on the Titan, but there's not really a reason he has to be an ensign. I mean, if he really fought, Will could probably keep both of them like he wanted, but yeah, I would have loved to see that Will-Boimler relationship go more. Still, though, Jonathan Frakes, Ensign Boimler's, plural, is amazing. You know, he was good in this episode as well. And I'm trying to think, in the trailer, I don't think we actually see any more Titan. Like, this could have been it. But, it'd be an interesting thing, I think, behind the scenes, as the years go on, to figure out more if there was a different plan, if this was the plan from the start. Because, yeah, I'm rather underwhelmed by that aspect of the episode. I had a lot of good things to say coming in. I really like that they're like, oh, Boimler must be having such a good time. Then flash back to him having or flash away to him having a horrible time. I would have loved that continuing through the series. And then they actually were doing plots on the Titan, and I was like, this is a real good way to do the A-B storyline. Like, you have your plot on the Cerritos and the Titan. Maybe not every episode on the Titan, but a few. Like, that's a really good way of doing it. But then it was just kind of like, oh, we're done now. And yeah, I don't know, I guess that's just underwhelming. I've never left a Lower Decks episode underwhelmed before. I think we'll transition now from Boimler to Kayshon, the Tamarian. Real glad it's not just Sumerian language constantly. For one, that doesn't really make sense. Like, in universe. But also, it doesn't mean the joke's gonna get old. We actually have a character here to work with and build with. I liked him. I like, as he's thinking of a language, you know, it's like, how do you say something in another language? Como se dice, like, you know, you're thinking you switch to another language. I like how he's, you know, sort of normal speak, and then he switches to, like, Tamarian stuff, some of which we know, of course, some of which we don't. The red eyes analogy was new. But yeah, I like Kayshon. I think he can definitely settle in as either some sort of defense against the dark arts position, where it only lasts a year, or as, like, a permanent thing. I didn't fall in love with him as quickly as I did Shax, but he's definitely a solid character we can keep around. Jet as well. I think I said before, I have a lot of respect for Lower Decks having that real set crew. It definitely makes it feel like a real proper ship. I feel like, you know, if I'm not Boimler in Starfleet, because I think we'd all in reality would be like terrified Boimler messes, I would definitely be Jet. I love that, like, super casual, cool guy, like we've seen him everywhere. But then he's on mission, he's like, no, we've got, like, a real important, serious job to do, and, like, we're gonna do it well. And that whole museum thing, I'm not 100% sure if it is the guy, what's it actually called? I don't know off the top of my head. The Most Toys. If it's the guy from the Most Toys, the TNG episode. It was kind of implied. In fact, I'll check right now, see if the memory update alpha's been updated. Oh, no, yeah, it was Clavis Foggio, and I think I would have recognized Foggio if I heard it in the episode. So no, not the guy who tried to collect data. But still, I could do a whole 2-hour episode on the references in that. I looked like the rooms with the skeletons might have been like a TOS, like, room itself. They never said it, but the giant, I'm pretty sure it was the giant Spock from Phylos, that he just had the giant Spock skeleton from TAS hanging on his ceiling. They were hiding in the Abe Lincoln, whatever the Abe Lincoln episode in the original series is, like an exhibit of that. In my trailer analysis, I caught the painting Picard made of the naked woman. We'll get to nudity later in this episode, but you could do a whole video on those references. We'll definitely spend some time. I think I'm gonna let, I can't remember their name, but the canon references guy do a lot of my work, and then I'll pick some of the highlights out for the next video. So yeah, start of the episode, the cold opening, I kind of had in my notes, like, they were walking away all in towels. Did they, like, all shower together? Like, that'd be kind of weird, but, you know, more equal, more, what's the word, like, it's a sign of how society's progressed. And then they were actually just heading all to the shower in, like, some massive group communal nudity, as they thought. put it. And I like the big props to that. The same, was it Starship Troopers? I don't know, is famous for that co-ed shower scene. And I love that depiction of the future is like, yeah, they just don't care. The Enterprise gel room, while problematic, was also another example of that. Get Picard do like the nude painting scene in The Next Generation. Deep Space Nine almost had the first full frontal not full frontal nudity, top frontal nudity of a female, and in fact the trailer did for the Ryza, one of the Ryza episodes with Lita. You can still find the trailer on the Star Trek website where she was supposed to be naked in one of the scenes. I can't quite remember which, but yeah. But I also think it was nice how they threw in that, like, Boimler was, like, semi-uncomfortable with the communal nudity. I really want to make that the subtitle to this review's video. But I kind of like the acknowledgement, like, Dr. Phlox had it as well, where the Denobulans weren't as comfortable for that, so it wasn't like, oh, everyone's gonna be fine, just get naked in front of each other. It was this is a societally acceptable thing that some people just don't take a part in because they don't want to, and I think that's probably the best way you could do it. Because I think it's unreasonable to assume that literally 100% of the population would be okay with that, or anything. Not because of some inherent bias against nudity, but it's such an ancient and engraved thing. But also you'd have people like myself, non-binary or some sort of trans, some sort of thing like that. You could have people with horrible traumatic scars, or but the point is, yeah, I think they handled it the best of anything I've ever seen. Another thing, I've got my notes down here, so a lot of the cuts are probably gonna have me looking up. But another thing is, the Collector had a Mirror Universe flag. I think it was the original Mirror Universe logo. That's not the stupid flipped Earth. But that was one of the weird things I noticed in the collection. As well as Fornication Helmet is an interesting thing that I didn't know Worf owned. Best joke of the episode, right? There was one that made me properly laugh, is oh no, quick, the saw, we have to hit the door with the saw, and then like chunk. They weren't spinning the saw, they were actually hitting the door with the saw, because it was brilliant, because you could see the bumps. You were kind of like, oh, that's not weird, something's right, and then another bump, and you can see the outline with the saw, and you're like, oh my god, are they hitting the door with the saw? That was beautiful. Best joke of the episode by far. That one really made me laugh. Another small reference is Riker was like, computer, play Nightbird, which is the song he like could never master on the trombone. I'm not sure which episode it was, but you know, he was like at a jazz station and Troy was like, play Nightbird or whatever. But yeah, that was a fun. I loved Mike McMahon was amazing in that final scene. Well, I don't want to credit him solely, but the writers, the general team, because they're like, the corn is pips, and Jet was like, oh yeah, like most of the times you see someone with the wrong amount of pips, it's just a piece of corn. It's like a subtle attempt to retcon, mainly Chief O'Brien, who has, I'm sure he's not the only one, but he's got like a multi-paragraph memory alpha section on his person titled Chief O'Brien's Problematic Rank History. And so it's almost like, oh no, yeah, he was always a chief petty officer. He just had some like corn on his collar or something, which was fun. But really bold was Boimler when he came back. How's the Titan? It was basically, oh, a bunch of serialized, like overdeveloped. I'm not sure that's how I would describe anyone in modern Trek. The opposite, but like overdeveloped. Like people going on serialized adventures that made me question my entire core foundations. Man, that's bold. Like basically a savagely honest review of live action modern Trek. I often slip up and say modern Trek as a whole, because Lower Decks is just so different from the modern stuff because it's just classic Trek, and modern Trek is not, and so I often will call will, like, say modern Trek just because Lower Decks doesn't even hit my mind is something that's modern. Even though it came out today. 11/16 is when I noticed it. I had to mess around with buying cables. Monday's video is going to be delayed, but anyway, yeah, it was out by 11/16. But yeah, that was bold. Like, you know, how long till he does a hostile takeover, mirror universe style, in robs Kurtzman of his job. But yeah, that was a great episode. I might stop taking notes for the future ones. I think I'm losing something by really focusing on making these videos. But we're gonna see. I'm now gonna hop over, like last time, to the Reddit to see what other people are saying. And also see if that sparks more things for my conversation. Oh my god, the very first comment, Rord48, I think, is just, I called it! It seems like a Boimler thing to happen. And a link to a post 6 days ago where he predicted exactly how Boimler was going to go back to the Cerritos in a transporter clone. Well done. Oh yeah, that was the other point, is Kalex's sex helmet. This was a very sexy episode of Lower Decks, which I did not expect, but, you know, I'll give props to anything that is going to try and normalize that communal nudity or weird things like that. But yeah, this was a strangely there's your subtitle for you. A strangely sexual episode. Or even better, a pleasantly sexual episode. Wow. You'll see which one I decided on to naming this video. Santa hates you again. I wonder why Starfleet allows sonic showers powerful enough to cause nosebleeds. Same designer as the holodeck safeties. Yeah, apparently. Ooh, here's a good thing that's jogged my memory. Not the comment, but it might not necessarily be a transporter clone. Like, they kind of set that up. But someone, Uncertain Arrow, has kind of gone, so Clone Boims is evil, right? Like, it'd be real smart for the Pakleds, but some sort of plant, like they cloned a Boimler or something, and that's what went to the Titan. I don't know, that's an interesting idea. I doubt it, but it is an interesting idea. Thomas Riker did end up a terrorist. Yes, Santa hates you, he did. Yeah, and again, it's only 12:03. There aren't a whole lot of comments on the Reddit, but that scene at the end was nice, where it was like, you know, I'd love to be in a string quartet. I joined Starfleet to study Moss. And the fourth guy didn't mention, I can't remember what the third guy said, but the fourth, I joined because I like beaming. The fourth guy didn't say anything, so, you know, did the Cockney guy join Starfleet to beat up at, like, a bunch of aliens and do a bunch of really, like, cool things? This is actually going to be a shorter video than I thought, but yeah, I think it was a good episode, a real good one, better than the first, that was brought down by an ending I really felt was disappointing. I'm not as excited. I mean, you know, part of it is like, yeah, I gotta put the effort in to be expressive, because it really doesn't translate to camera well, but it was like, an episode I was really excited and happy with until the Boimler clone thing that just really felt like a cop-out and kind of disappointing. So as much as this episode was pleasantly sexual, it did end in a rather, it did end in a letdown. What have I done? Yeah, just because that very last reaction with Riker and Boimler was really nice, but I don't think I'm going to top what I just said, so I think I'm going to call it there. I'd really love for you to, like, hear your thoughts in the comments, because I love some discussion on mostly the Boimler aspect. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next week for what Memory Alpha has yet to name Episode 3.